All right, so now we're going to talk about how Democrats view Republicans, how Republicans view Democrats, and actually how they're both kind of thinking the same thing about different issues. This is from the FFF.org, which is, I think, is like the Future of Freedom Foundation or something like that. Article titled "America Has a Uniparty" by Lawrence M. Vance. So, first of all, Democrats on Republicans. Democrats say President Trump and the Republican Party have rigged the economy in favor of the wealthiest few and the biggest corporations and left working families and small businesses out in the cold. I believe that's true. I also believe the Democratic Party is doing that. Let's keep going. President Trump and the Republican Party are trying to tear the health care away from millions of people who depend on it for survival, but they said they were going to write a new repeal and replace thing, ended up never doing that. Anyways, time after time, President Trump and the Republicans have rewarded big corporations and their wealthy donors and left working families behind. Probably true. Our tax system has been rigged against the American people by big corporations and their lobbyists and by Republican politicians who dole out tax cuts to their biggest donors while leaving working families to struggle. Working families struggling to pay those big corporations that then pay the billionaires that then get the tax break, and the lovely circle keeps going on and on. At every turn, Democrats' efforts to guarantee health coverage have been met by obstruction and opposition from the Republican Party. By the way, the Democrats have a Democratic president right now, and still no health care. There's always talk that you're going to get health care, more health care, and then you never get anything besides kind of Obamacare. Next, we stand united against the determined Republican campaign to disenfranchise voters through onerous voter ID laws, unconstitutional and excessive purges of voter rolls, and closures of polling places in low income neighborhoods, on college campuses, and in communities of color. The Republican Party has packed our federal courts with unqualified partisan judges who consistently rule for corporations, the wealthy, and Republican interests. Now, here's the fun part. Remember, part three is how they actually kind of think the same way, anyways, right? Even though they pretend they're fighting. So, this is Republicans on Democrats. What do Republicans say? So they say the president and the Democratic Party have dismantled America's system of healthcare. They have replaced it with a costly and complicated scheme that limits choice and takes away our freedom. The president and the Democratic Party have abandoned their promise of being accountable to the American people. They have nearly doubled the size of the national debt. They refuse. Okay, really, every single party gets into power and then just is terrible with the debt. Okay. And the funny part is they always blame the other party that's in power for the debt. Then they get into power, they make the debt worse, and so on. It's the dumbest freaking thing to always listen to. Anyways, let's go on. The Republicans say the Democrats, have nearly double the size of the national debt. They refuse to control our borders, but try to control our schools, farms, businesses, and even religious institutions. They have directly attacked the production of American energy and the industry related jobs that have sustained families and communities. The president has been regulating to death a free market economy that he does not like and does not understand. He defies the laws of the United States by refusing to enforce those which he does not agree. And he appoints judges. That's funny. They're both blaming the other party for appointing judges, technically the job of the party. Anyways, let's keep going. He defies the laws of the United States by refusing to enforce those which he does not agree, and he appoints judges who legislate from the bench rather than apply the law. The Democratic administration's sustained support for additional regulation of agriculture has directly resulted in higher costs of production for those who produce the food we eat. This federal regulatory overreach has resulted and will continue to result in higher food prices for Americans. Definitely seeing higher food prices. Not sure if this is to blame, but obviously seeing higher food prices. During the last 8 years of a Democratic administration, nearly all the work requirements for able bodied adults instituted by our landmark welfare reform of 1996 have been removed. Now, this article goes through the issues, but let's dig a little bit deeper on how the parties actually agree issue by issue. So, on the issue of guns, many Democrats don't hide the fact that they don't think anyone should own a gun unless he works for the government. Police, sheriff, highway patrol, military, Secret Service, FBI, DEA, ATF, and IRS agents, but don't think for a minute that this means that Republicans actually believe in the Second Amendment and gun freedom. Both parties believe that most federal gun laws, including the National Instant Crime Background Check System, the NICS, should be retained, even though they infringe upon the right of the people to keep and bear arms. And it's not just on the federal level. In my red state, Florida, where Republicans have a solid majority in legislature, 3 new gun control bills were passed and signed into law by the Republican governor after the school shooting in Parkland in 2018. The bottom line is Democrats and Republicans both believe that the federal government has the authority to pass legislation, even though such is not authorized by the Constitution and is prohibited by the Second Amendment. Second issue, taxation. Republicans are usually for lower taxes across the board, while Democrats are generally in favor of increasing taxes on the rich, but not so fast. A quick look at Republicans' attitudes towards tax reform and refundable tax credits shows that Republicans are not as interested in slashing taxes as they are given credit for. First, Republicans are always putting forth tax reform proposals. The only thing they have all in common is that they are always revenue neutral. That is, any revenue loss from tax cuts must be offset by revenue gains either from tax increases broadening the tax base, closing loopholes, or eliminating deductions, or from additional revenue that flows into the federal treasury from the economic growth as a result of tax cuts. But any revenue neutral tax reform scheme, by definition, only shifts taxes, not lowers them. If someone's taxes are lowered, somebody else's taxes must be increased. Revenue neutral tax reform implies that the government spending is not the fundamental problem that should be addressed. Second, Republicans are always saying that the tax code contains too many exemptions, credits, loopholes, shelters, exclusions, and deductions and needs to be simplified. Yet, when it comes to refundable tax credits that give people a quote unquote refund of money that they never paid in, the Republicans are united with Democrats in keeping them in the tax code. The bottom line, when it comes to taxation, Democrats and Republicans both believe that the government is entitled to a proportion of every American's income. Democrats and Republicans are just two teams, blue and red, in the same league, two sides of the same coin, two wings, fascists and socialists of the same bird, and two faces of Janus, whatever Janus is. It is because America has a uniparty that the welfare/warfare state continues unabated. And that's the interesting part about when we say, oh, we need bipartisanship. Well, perhaps that is too simple of an answer because what if bipartisanship isn't in America's best interest in terms of promoting the economic welfare of Americans? We have to dig deeper into what bipartisan policies mean for us and if they are helping us. If they're helping us, great. If they are hurting us, no bueno. No bueno at all. And that's all.